Hello again. One of the things which I find a little sad is the way that some black people are determined to create an alternative world in which they invented everything from mobile phones to the internet. They're so keen on doing this that none of them apparently realise that they're making themselves look ridiculous and confirming all the worst stereotypes about black people which have been around since the 19th century. I thought we might look at one example of this business, which entails black people seemingly believing and boasting about the fact that it was a black person who invented mobile phones. This is tied in, of course, with demands for compensation for having not only been slaves, but also the fact that all their inventions like mobile phones, space rockets and even the internet have been stolen from them, and they've not been given credit for those inventions or indeed paid for them. In the description to this video, I give a link to one example of this kind of thing, which is a video on the YouTube channel. It's called "The Black Man Who Invented the Cell Phone Technology, Henry Thompson Sampson." One of the comments on this video reads as follows: "If only we as African American could collect from all the intellectual property we've invented, we wouldn't need nothing from nobody, just survive on the profit. You see, they'd all be millionaires if it were not for those white devils." Some white politicians play up to this in order to court the black vote in America, of course. On Thursday, 3rd of September 2020, presidential candidate, as he was then, Joe Biden, was addressing a meeting of mainly African Americans at the Grace Lutheran Church in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Possibly in an effort to ingratiate himself with the black people present that day, he made the surprising claim that a black man invented the light bulb, not a white guy named Edison. In the present case, the black inventor we are concerned with, and he's all over the internet on black history sites, so there's little point trying to correct the fake history, is Henry T Sampson. I give a link to the Wikipedia page about him, which is perfectly accurate. He was an engineer, and along with another guy, he designed an improved type of gamma electric cell. What is that? Well, it's nothing at all mysterious. Some viewers will know about photoelectric cells, which of course convert ordinary light to electricity. Gamma electric cells do the same thing with nuclear radiation, gamma waves to be specific. They can be used to detect radiation or even perhaps to generate electricity when attached to the shielding of a nuclear reactor. Sampson didn't invent the idea, but came up with what he said were improvements in the devices, which is perfectly reasonable. Now we come to the embarrassing part, which really makes those black people who are trying to spread this nonsense look like children, I'm sorry to say. The connection between the gamma electric cell on which Sampson worked and mobile telephones, which have nothing at all to do with this, is the word cell. These simple black folk have heard the word cell in cell phone and then seen the same word in gamma electric cell and seem to have muddled the things up in their minds, thinking that because they both contain the word cell, then they are essentially the same thing. Of course, nuclear radiation has nothing at all to do with how mobile telephones work, and it really makes one want to blush when you see this misunderstanding being posted up all over the internet. I was looking the other day at a book by the Victorian scientist Francis Galton. He's famous for his in connection with the use of fingerprints, of course, as well as eugenics. His book is called Hereditary Genius, and it was published in 1869. One chapter of Hereditary Genius was called The Comparable Worth of Different Races, and Francis Galton was in no doubt on the question. He wrote, "The number among the Negroes of those men whom we should call half-witted men is very large. Every book in America alluding to Negro servants is full of instances. I was much impressed myself by this fact during my travels in Africa. The mistakes the Negroes made in their own matters were so childish, stupid and simpleton-like as frequently to make me ashamed of my own species. Galton estimated that the black people with whom he came into contact were roughly 2 grades lower than the equivalent white people, which in modern terms is about 15 points on the IQ scale. This is interesting because he was writing before the invention of modern intelligence tests and before the concept of the IQ had been devised, and yet his own observations tie in with some more recent, although it has to be said, controversial measurements in different parts of the modern world. That anybody would think that cell phones was something to do with gamma electric cells, simply because both contain the word cell, might to most of us seem absolutely extraordinary. Yet for an awful lot of black people it is quite logical, and this explains why the myth that a black man called Henry T Sampson invented the mobile phone, which is now all over the internet. You can see Sampson in the thumbnail to this video.